Thank you, Jack. That was really beautiful. So, to conclude, let's talk about the future. And let's talk about the same qualities that all of our teachers and speakers have been sharing with us today, and how these relate to the next generation, to our children. And so to do that, I'm really excited today to welcome here somebody who you all know and love, somebody who over the years has provided much joy and happiness and laughter and inspiration to us. So Goldie Hawn is, as you know, an amazing Academy Award-winning actress, producer, author, child advocate, and inspiration. And over the past several years, through her Hawn Foundation, has started MindUP, which brings together cognitive neuroscientists, positive psychologists, educators, and experts in the field of mindful awareness training to bring that curriculum to teachers, to parents, and to children in schools. And to date, they have shared that curriculum with over 400,000 children. So it's a real honor today to welcome to this stage Goldie Hawn.
I'm not going to talk about comedy, but I have something that could be falling off in any second, so if it does, just have a big hoot. It's fallen off several times. So it's a great joy to be here. It's wonderful to see everybody. I just want to thank Jack for a beautiful moment, because we all need those. I thought that, Donna, you were wonderful. Today is a really special day. Dreamforce is an amazing place. It gives us a place to really look at our future and understand and imagine it differently. And right now what we do have is an incredible ability, because of Salesforce and Mark Benioff and beautiful Lynn, his wife, to be able to give us the opportunity to understand how we can improve our lives and our heart, our spirit, our health, in every way, relationships through mindfulness. So, but what I'm going to start talking about actually is about my life, really, because why am I up here? Why me? You know, I don't have a PhD in psychology, and I'm not necessarily preaching meditation all over the world. This isn't what I do, but I live my life in a certain way with certain aspects and ideas, and I want to share with you how I got here. You know, so. One of the beginnings of my life is that I started dancing. And dancing was really my beautiful, beautiful moment. I was 3 years old. And when I kept dancing, I was happy. And this is something that I enjoy, because I think my true seed, my nature, I was born with a fairly high set point of happiness. And then when I became 11, something happened. I was in school, and all of a sudden I heard, oh, we're going to go down to the visual aids room, and we're going to go watch a movie. And I was so excited. I thought, oh good, we're going to watch how corn is grown in Iowa. Well, frankly, that's not exactly what I saw. What I saw was 9, 8, 7, 6, and so forth. And suddenly, and it was just annihilation. And a bomb went off, and then they panned annihilation of children, and mothers crying, and children lost, and fathers with blood. And I'm looking at this, and I'm 11. And I'm a sensitive child. And my brain isn't finished yet until I'm 24, which I didn't know. And I started to shake. I said, wait a minute. My life I could die tomorrow. Duck and cover? I mean, I'm going to get under a desk, and that's going to save my life from an atom bomb? That we're going to be annihilated as a country, and our life is going to be over, and I will never get to kiss a boy? I won't live that long? I was shaking. And need to go home because my mom's making lunch for me. And she says, Goldie, you never go home for lunch. I said, I know, but I do. And I ran home. I called my mother from the store. I said, Mommy, we're all going to die. And I'm going to die. And I'm scared. What happened to you, Goldie? What did you see? I said, they showed me a film and everything, and it's all about the bomb and how Russia's going to bomb us. And she came home, rushed home in her pointy shoes and straight skirt. She was so cute. And she came home and she said, what are they showing you? What are they showing you in school? And she picks up the phone after she explained to me that Russia and everything's going to be fine. We both have the bomb and nobody wants to die. Although it stuck with me for many, many years. She called the Department of Education and said, excuse my French, what the hell are you doing with our kids? What are you teaching them? You think that they can absorb this information? You think that these children are able to understand what you're trying to say? This is propaganda given to the children. It affected my mind until I left high school. I wouldn't go to school if there was a siren blowing. When we had air raid, I was too frightened. I couldn't think. I was so scared. And when there was a fire truck that went by, I would pick up the phone, I'd call the operator, I'd say, excuse me, is this an enemy attack? And she'd say, I don't know, dear, what you're talking about. I said, well, I know, but I'm hearing the siren. I wasn't in my own mind. And that same year, when I was 11 years old, people said to me, what do you want to be when you grow up, Goldie? And I remember saying, I want to be happy. And they said, oh no, we know you're a dancer. What do you want to be? Do you want to be a movie star? Do you want to dance on Broadway? And I remember looking up at them saying, no, I want to be happy. That's what I wanted to be. What I wanted to do was something different. What I want to do, how I want to behave, my life, that's different. I wanted to be happy. And it was something that I tried, first and foremost, that my life was going to be about enjoying and feeling happiness deep inside. I then went to New York and I became a dancer, and then from being a dancer, I was then asked to come dance in Los Angeles. And I was actually making money and doing the things I wanted to do. I was trained to be a dancer. And my dream was dance, go home, open a dancing school, get married, and be happy. That was a dream. We're at Dreamforce. We all have our dreams. I had a dream. It was a good dream. It made sense. It was normal. And when people said to me, do you want to be a movie star? I said, oh, first of all, it's unrealistic. But secondly, no, because they're so messed up. I wanted a real life. I wanted a life with a white picket fence and all the things that I imagined would bring me happiness, including children and a lovely husband and a wonderful stove and all the things that we thought in those days would create security and love. But something happened. And that was that my dream, which was moving along very nicely, frankly, because I had been asked to do a television show, which was amazing, and I was dancing on a show, and then there was an agent that walked up to me, 12 beautiful girls dancing on a television show. And he came up to me and he said, oh, do you have an agent? And I went, no, I don't really, I don't have an agent, but you know, I'm just a dancer and all that. And he said, well, I would like to see you. And I went, well, yeah, sure, but you know. And I went back to dancing on the show. I got a call and he said, we're waiting for you at the William Morris agency. You were supposed to be here on Wednesday. I got in my car. My car had, well, it didn't have a floor really, but the hole was so big in the floor that I could see the street. And then every time I made a right-hand turn, my left-hand door flew open. So I had to hold it that way and the whole thing. And then I ended up right there at William Morris, really rushed in, next thing I know, signed in. And I went up for an audition, and I got a job. And I was suddenly pulled out of the chorus, and I was put into a television show. And shouldn't I have been happy? Oh, I'm doing a 3-camera show at Disney Studios. Mom, Dad, my life has changed. Everything's different. Something happened then, and that was that I got depressed. And I started to have anxiety attacks. I started to feel scared. My life had changed. I know it sounds crazy, but what happened to my dream? What happened to my white picket fence? What happened to my husband, wherever he was? What happened to dancing school? What happened to dancing on television for as long as my legs could keep me going and then make a new life? I had it all planned out. So I became anxious. I had panic attacks. I couldn't go into public without throwing up. What was happening? Goldie, can I have your autograph? Why? Well, I was destabilized, just like I was in school. We're tender. We're all tender. We all have brains that get messed up. We get scared. We get depressed. We've had panic attacks. This amazing brain that we have that does amazing things can also work against us. I went to a doctor and I saw a psychologist. I wanted to find out more about myself because Socrates said, a life unexamined is no life. It isn't worth living. I was examining my life. It was important because I wanted to return back to my smile, return back to happiness. And I spent 9 years studying my own mind, my own reasons, my own causes for joy, happiness, sorrow, my relationships with my parents, and my relationships with the people in my life. I learned a lot about the mind. I learned a lot about psychology. I learned a lot about myself. But something extraordinary happened in 1971, which brings me closer to what we're here for today. And that is, I was initiated with TM, and I started meditating. And I remember my very first experience in meditation. And I don't know, it's very difficult, just put into words oftentimes, almost like love is hard to express. But it's difficult because it's a visceral experience. It was an experience that I had, that I felt like when I was initiated and I was given my mantra, and I was sitting there in Westwood, California, and I walked into a room with incense burning and a rose on the altar, and a new mantra, something that I could say over and over that sounded beautiful. And the window was open, and there was lace in the curtain, and the breeze was coming through. All my senses were alive. And when I went down deep into myself, into my mantra, my heart opened. I met myself for the first time in a long time. I could feel the seed of joy that was happening naturally. I think we're born with it, and when you really get down in there, you feel it. You feel this incredible sense of well-being and joy and power. Power to love, power to forgive. You're right there in that moment, and I will never forget how it ignited so much of my spirit and so much of my pure joy, which is deep. So it became my practice for many, many years. And then after I had practiced for many years, I continued to study because it's what I do. I'm fascinated with it as much as I love my career as an actress. I'm interested in other things, which all of us are, I'm sure. And I studied the brain. And I started looking into the brain and the causes for certain things and habituation and all of the aspects of the brain that actually are connected also to meditation. And then Richard Davidson did this wonderful research, a very, very forerunner, and created, oh my goodness, on the cover of Time magazine. Well, look what happens to the brain when you meditate. Well, it's profound, guys. This is science. I mean, I'd love for us all to go under a rock, you know, in Kerala and sit somewhere or on a beach and meditate together. It's a wonderful thing to do. But the truth is that what we're talking about is application. How do we activate these various truths that we're now learning at this time in history? So when we start realizing that we have an aspect of control over our brain because it's what we do, it's what we think, it's how we act, is becoming what we become. Our reality is created by what we think, what we do, and the choices that we make. So we're not out of control. We're not out of control on our reactivity because guess what? We have metacognition. Do you know what that means? Metacognition. We get to see ourselves. We're a rare bird as humans. So we get to see who and what we're doing. Watching ourselves is so important because it's about awareness. Awareness of who we are. Awareness of our actions. Awareness that it's time to forgive. Awareness that I've said something that I've hurt someone. Awareness that it's time to love. These are the things that we need to be aware of. Awareness of our anger. Awareness of our reactivity. So as I'm putting all this together in great joy, great excitement, meeting amazing minds, beautiful people that are doing incredible things in the world. I got a phone call. Goldie, I wanted to catch you before you left for school. What's going on? We've just been attacked. 9/11. What? Yeah. The Twin Towers are going down. We've got to turn the television set on. And I sat there with my kid who I was taking to school, and I looked and I said, oh my God, what is happening to us? What is this seed of anger that's taking over the world? What is this polarization that's happening to the world? We were all devastated. We all were shaken and knew that our lives, our world, would never be the same. Would not have the kind of freedom that we have. And we depended on our leaders because we were helpless, sad, and helpless. And the only thing that I could do at this time was look in my knitting and find red, white, and blue thread. And I knit the American flag. And I sat there in my chair crying for over a week, paralyzed. I don't want to go anywhere. I don't want to do anything. I want to sit here with my family. I don't want them to go anywhere. I want to be together. And then I remembered how I felt about the war, and I thought I was going to die and never kiss a boy. I thought that my life was over at 11. I felt the trauma, the inability to deal at school, the fear of going to school. Look what happens to your mind when it's in frenzy. Look what happens to us when we don't know what we're going to do when we're scared. Well, there's a reason for that. And there's a way to mitigate that. Because we now understand the brain and we understand the effects of mindfulness, mindfulness attention, meditation, call it what you will. Focused attention can calm us down, calm down the limbic system, calm us down to a point where our executive function can actually take over, make cognitive decisions, critically think appropriately, without the frenzy, the fear, the anger, all the emotions that drive us that are negative. So now what we have is me sitting there with my family thinking how how are we going to change the world? How are we going to create peace? How do we create people to have dialogues? How do we create leaders that are actually going to change the world in a way that's mindful, in a way that isn't ego-driven, in a way that can see a problem from 30,000 feet up? How in the world are we going to do that? And a year later, we went into Iraq, and that was it. That's when I sat in my meditation room, contemplating after my meditation. Sometimes I go in my quiet room. Guys, you don't have to meditate. Just sit quietly. Just breathe and sit quietly. You'll be amazed at what comes to your mind. And you'll be amazed at what happens to your heart. In that, I said to myself, how old are you now, Goldie? How long have you been working as an actress? How many years do you want to sit in front of a makeup chair? Because there's work to be done. And I want to help. I know too much now. I know that what's sitting in petri dishes in universities of research is not moving out into the world. Universities are amazing. They do great things. But there's a tendency to move slow, and I'm a producer. And I thought, you know what, let's bring neuroscientists in. Let's bring mindfulness practitioners in. Let's bring teachers in. Let's bring positive psychologists in. Let's bring them into this room and write a curriculum for children that will go into the classroom in order to build not only great leadership, but change the world, because that's how it will happen. Build bigger schools. Keep them after school longer. Our children are depressed. 1 in 5 of our children has a mental disorder of some kind. 15 to 24-year-olds is the second suicide is the second leading cause of death. The second leading cause of death, suicide, 15 to 24 years old. It breaks my heart because they're sad, they're lonely, they're stressed. They have been given no tools to mitigate any of their fears, to mitigate any of their anxieties, their stress. They are so stressed. Oh, let's give them medication. That's going to help. We'll give them pills. That will help them. Worry about their stress, worry about their anxiety. That'll help them focus. This will help them do this. And we have proof that this kind of practice can help them. Why do we need to continue to give our children medication and psychotropics in order to think, to be, to feel? And are we giving any attention to the longitudinal studies at all on the developing brain? The answer is no. So this is my life. Because I have now over 500,000 children doing MindUP. And MindUP is a program that incorporates mindfulness. But I believed, in my own way of seeing it, that if you don't give a child an understanding of their brain and teach them neuroscience, which is exactly what we need to teach them, because we ask them to use their brain. Oh, pay attention. Most kids don't even know what that means. We want to strengthen attention. We want to strengthen the brain. We want to strengthen their optimism. Give them tools so they're going to be able to flourish the best they can. And our children need to have joy in their classroom. They need to have a sense of optimism. Our teachers need to be trained differently. They need to go into the colleges of our colleges here in the United States and learn not just mindfulness, also learn about the brain. Learn about how gratitude changes the brain. Learn about how habituating positive thoughts changes the brain. It's a dance. It's a dance for evolution. We need to evolve as human beings. We have an amazing capability of creating new ways of being. We're doing that today. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Salesforce. So where I am today, and where our children are today, so you know, and I think a lot of you are wondering, well, what is the practice? And I will share with you that what we're doing is 15 lessons in 4 pillars. One of them is, let's teach our little ones about the brain. We're in from K until 8th right now, and have been for the last 11 years. And now we're moving into high school with a curriculum. I'm very excited about it. In the meantime, these 7-year-olds are telling me how the brain works. And I'll go into the classroom because this is my joy to be with them in the classroom. It's like why I'm doing it, right? And so I go in and they say, oh, well, do you want to know how the brain works? And I say, yes. And they say, well, the amygdala, which is, we need the amygdala, you know, but I mean, it's there but it gets overactive, and then we get scared, or we get scared about tests or something. He said, we just learn to quiet down the amygdala by taking breaths and doing our mindful breathing, and then we take our brain break, which is what we call it in the classroom, because every brain needs a break. And they get quiet, and they listen to a bell, and they're happy, and they're joyful, and it's 2 minutes. Because then he said, my brain opens up, my prefrontal cortex, and that's my thinking brain, and that's how I activate it. Because otherwise, they won't have anything to do with the hippocampus, which is what remembers everything. So, they love their brain. So when we're teaching neurobiology, when we do our mindful practices, where we do 3 times a day in the classroom, not once, not twice, but 3 times a day in 3-minute breaks. Manage the classroom, manage their ability to attend to things, manage their emotionality, manage their reactivity. And then we do mindful exercises of our senses and wrap all our curriculum around it. So these aren't add-ons, it's changing the way the whole classroom works, the whole classroom feels. It's a happy place. There's no wrong answer about mindfulness. There's no wrong answer about tasting and smelling, because we're all different, amazingly, amazingly different humans. Embrace the diversity of all of us. And the last thing that we do is we do positive psychology, social and emotional learning, if you will. Acts of kindness we do. And they do it in the classroom, and they think about it. Why do we do it? Because it changes the neurological connections of the brain. Because the more you think about happiness, the more your brain wants to think about happiness. The more angry you become, the more angry your brain gets. You get more used to being angry. You look at the negative instead of the positive. So we're now looking at critical thinking. We're looking at perspective taking. So they read books and they think, conversations. Why do you think that character did that? What do you think he was feeling? This puts them in other people's shoes, and we're creating empathy without even saying, now you're going to learn how to be empathetic. Because they just are, by nature. And when you give them these, they do. And then we do gratitude journals, which I think probably some of you have studied gratitude. It's an enormous benefit to our minds and our hearts, because when you do gratitude, it has, this is research, has pulled people out of very depressed states, because we're grateful. So today is the first day of the rest of my life, and it's the first day of the rest of your life. And as I say, I'm not as young as I was, never been as old as I am, but I've never been as young as I am right now. Point being, every day is a new day. Every day is a birthday. And I feel that if we can instill some of these feelings into our children, giving them critical ways of dealing with their stress. I don't really want to get into the negative, but as we know, we've had our children from high school jumping off a train here. It's not possible that we've spent $17 million on building fences. You don't have to build fences anymore. You just have to engage in the reality that our children in this day and age need a different kind of education. They need an education that's going to give them tools to live life, tools to have friends, tools to negotiate, tools to deal with conflict, and tools to give them the right to laugh and to smile and to feel lighthearted. So, I am grateful for this today. I am grateful to be here. And I just want to say thank you. And if there's any challenge, it is to remember that the one person that you need to challenge to become better in life for you and for your loved ones and for your children and for your job is to go to the University of You and become the best human being you can possibly become. Thank you.
There's only one way to end the day like today, which is to invite all of our speakers back up here, please. Please come on up. And as some of you are leaving now, I just want to thank you all for being here, for giving us your time, attention, and intention. And together, I wanted to see if there's anything else that anyone else wanted to offer as we end today.
I'd like to offer a big stretch. Everybody raise your hand. Pull your hips way up and out of them. Just, oh gosh, that's a good one.
Thank you.
Just one thing, be excellent every time. Thank you.
All right, everybody. Thank you very much and goodbye for now.
We are in the midst of a customer. You gotta move fast. And you gotta bold. Pace of change is increasing. This change is not going to stop. You have to. You have to be totally connected. Everyone who touches your brain. For over 16 years, we've been focused on just one thing.
Behind each and every one of these interactions, there's a customer.
Customer centricity at its finest.
We started Salesforce.com in 1999, just a few people in an apartment in San Francisco. Together to create a new era.
The power of concepts, speed, the power to change and improve right now, constantly.
Salesforce has transformed the way businesses do business.
Today, I run most of our business from the phone.
It's a whole new way of thinking about customers, and Salesforce just made what we do better.
It's cool because it's the fastest growing company in the industry by far.
Welcome to Salesforce. Thank you for investing in finance.
Dreamforce represents companies growing.
Hi, I'm Gary, and I built an entire Dreamforce experience out of Legos. This year I'm hoping to sit right here in the front row. Hello, Dreamforce! Front row, check me out! Here I am in the front row. Dreamforce is awesome!
We all